What if there was a hidden code in the Bible that revealed not only the past, but also the future? Something that connects not only the Christians of that time, but also each of us today. A hidden message in the words of an exiled prophet, written over 2,000 years ago, and that might be unfolding right now before our very eyes. The 7 churches of Revelation. Were they merely letters addressed to specific communities in the first century? Or is there something much greater behind them? A veiled prophecy? A warning? A map that leads us directly to the final events of humanity? What you are about to hear may change your perspective on the times we live in. Because by the end of this video, you will discover something unexpected, something that may completely redefine your understanding of these messages and their impact on the present day. But first, pay close attention to the details, because each one could be the key piece of this great enigma. In the book of Revelation, John, the beloved disciple, is imprisoned on the island of Patmos. Isolated, surrounded by waters, and watched by Roman soldiers, he receives a staggering revelation. Among all the grand visions, 7 letters are dictated directly by Jesus. 7 letters to 7 real churches in Asia Minor, but carrying messages that resonate far beyond their time. The first letter was sent to Ephesus, a church that, to human eyes, seemed strong. It was a place of great spiritual activity, with hardworking people dedicated to doctrine. But there was a problem. They had lost their first love. The initial passion, the fervor for which they had abandoned everything to follow the faith, had grown cold. Does this sound familiar? In a world where many live a mechanical, routine faith without passion, this message may be more relevant than ever. Smyrna, the second church, was completely different. It was financially poor, but spiritually rich. Persecuted, massacred, forced to survive in a hostile environment. They faced pain, suffering, and death for their faith. And today, the persecution of Christianity is not a thing of the past. In many parts of the world, people still lose their lives simply for refusing to deny their beliefs. History repeats itself. Pergamum, on the other hand, faced a different challenge. Not persecution, but compromise with the world. They were surrounded by a society full of idolatry, and little by little, they began to accept and incorporate these influences. How often do we see something similar today? People who adapt their faith to make it more acceptable, who adjust values to avoid confrontation. Thyatira took this problem to an even deeper level. They did not just tolerate false doctrines. They embraced them. They allowed distorted teachings to enter the church, weakening the truth. Today, we see movements within Christianity itself where biblical truth is molded to fit modern narratives, setting aside essential principles. Sardis was a dead church. It had the appearance of being alive, but inside, it was empty. Its problem was not persecution or external influence, but a deep spiritual lethargy. And if we look around, how many churches, how many people live exactly this reality? They maintain tradition, rituals, but have completely lost their essence. On the other hand, Philadelphia received a rare compliment. It was the faithful church, small without political or economic power, but it remained steadfast. And perhaps this is the greatest lesson. It is not size, influence, or wealth that defines a church or a person before God, but their faithfulness. And then we come to the last church, Laodicea, the most well-known and perhaps the most feared of all. The lukewarm church, neither hot nor cold. A comfortable church, satisfied with itself, believing it had everything, but in reality, it was blind, poor, and naked. Is there a better description for the time we live in? A time when people seek God when it is convenient, but avoid any sacrifice? Where there is material abundance, but a deep spiritual emptiness. Now, here is something interesting. What if these churches were not just letters to communities of the past? What if they were a prophetic portrait of the ages of Christianity throughout the centuries? Many scholars believe that these letters represent different phases in the history of the church, from the apostolic era to the present day. And if this is true, then we are now living in the era of Laodicea. But what about the future? Are these letters merely a reflection on the present? Or do they also carry a prophecy for what is to come? Because if we are truly in the era of the lukewarm church, then we are on the brink of the next great prophetic event described in the Bible. And here is a detail that few notice. All the churches received promises and warnings, but only Laodicea received a different invitation. Jesus is not inside this church. He is outside, knocking, waiting for someone to open the door. This means that even in the midst of this lukewarmness, there is hope. There is still time for those who choose to listen. And now I want to hear from you. Which of these churches do you think best represents the days we live in? Do you believe we are in the last phase of the church's history? Leave your comment below because I want to know your opinion. And before you go, subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. And share this content with someone who needs to hear this today. And here's a challenge. Tell me in the comments which food you think has symbolic meaning in the Bible and why. Who knows? It might become a future video. Stay alert because the next mystery may be closer than you think.